Okay, for all you CPA firm leaders out there, does it feel like tax season just never really ends anymore? Well, if you're nodding your head right now, you're not just imagining it. There's a quiet but really powerful shift happening in our industry. And today we're going to break down exactly what it is and, more importantly, what it means for your practice. For as long as any of us can remember, tax work had this familiar rhythm, right? You had the crazy busy season, then a much needed breather, and then you'd start ramping up for the next year. Well, that rhythm, it's fading, and it is fading fast. That feeling of being constantly on, it's not just in your head. It's the new reality of how we operate. So let's be super clear about what's going on here. This feeling of a never-ending tax season isn't just a temporary thing or a one-off bad year. No way. This is a deep, fundamental, structural shift in how tax work, works. The old, predictable cycle is officially gone for good. All right, so why is this happening? What's the engine behind this relentless, year-round demand? Now, there are a few things at play, but honestly, they all point back to one central theme: a massive, massive increase in complexity. Let's break down what that really means for your firm. Just look at how all this stuff feeds on itself. You get constant legislative updates, which of course leads to more complex reporting and compliance. At the exact same time, your clients are getting bigger, creating these tricky multi-entity structures that are basically an open invitation for more IRS scrutiny. And the cherry on top? Clients now they demand proactive guidance all year long. The work just can't be squeezed into a 3-month window anymore. It's impossible. And this is where things start to hurt. The demand for tax services has become this continuous flowing river. But most firms, they're still operating with a structure that was built for seasonal peaks and valleys. This mismatch is the real root of all the pain. Here's the problem in a nutshell. Your firm is structured for a short, intense sprint, assuming there's time to catch your breath. But the job has turned into a marathon with no finish line in sight. So it happens. You get constant deadline pressure. Those recovery periods completely vanish, and there is absolutely zero time for high-value advisory work. Your team feels like they're always behind because the system they're in just wasn't built for this game. And don't kid yourself, your clients feel this strain immediately. Sure, they might not use phrases like operational models, but they definitely notice when response times get slower and the advice feels reactive instead of proactive. In this new always-on world, consistency isn't a nice-to-have, it's the bare minimum. And the firms that are absolutely thriving are the ones delivering that consistency day in and day out. Okay, so we've defined the problem. The old engine is breaking down. But here's the good news. Forward-thinking firms are already building a new one. So let's take a look at the toolkit they're using to design an operation that can handle this constant demand without burning everyone out. Now, this might sound a little backward at first, but stick with me. The foundation of a flexible, always-on model isn't some fancy new tech. It's standardization. A lot of leaders think standardizing will make them rigid, but it's the complete opposite. When your workflows are all over the place, every little unexpected task creates rework and bottlenecks. But with standardized processes, you create a stable platform that can absorb the chaos and let you move work around smoothly without ever dropping the ball on quality. So once you've got that standardized base, you can start strategically adding capacity. And a really powerful first step is tax form outsourcing. This is all about stabilizing the sheer volume of compliance work. Just think of all the pressure from extensions, amended returns, and sudden legislative updates. Outsourcing this court prep work creates a predictable, stable pipeline that basically acts as a shield for your internal team against those wild surges of compliance tasks. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, we've got tax function outsourcing. This is a much bigger strategic play. We're not just talking about offloading forms here. This is about getting support for the entire tax lifecycle. And the most important part? It fundamentally changes the role of your best people. It shifts your highly skilled internal staff away from the daily grind of execution and frees them up for high-value review, judgment, and actually managing client relationships. The hardest part of this new reality is the uncertainty. You just never know when the next legislative bomb is going to drop or a client will have some major transaction. Offshore tax consultants are your flexible capacity layer. They let you absorb those sudden workload spikes and keep your service levels high without the massive cost of overhiring or, even more importantly, completely burning out your existing team. Okay, let's talk about technology, but maybe not in the way you'd think. In this new model, tech is a supporter, not a savior. Look,
Tools like automation and AI are incredibly powerful, but they only work if you have those standardized processes and, critically, the human capacity to act on what they find. Think of it like this. Technology is the diagnostic tool that exposes the bottlenecks, but outsourcing is what actually helps you clear them. So when you put all these pieces together, standardization, strategic outsourcing, and supporting tech, something fundamental starts to shift. You move from being in a constant state of reaction, always putting out fires, to a proactive position where you're actually in control. This is the always-on advantage.
So how do the firms that are getting this right actually think? Well, first, they stop planning for a season and start planning their capacity across all 12 months. Second, they build a firewall between the routine prep work and the high-value advisory work. And third, they stop chasing deadlines and start managing them by communicating proactively with their clients. It's a total shift in philosophy. And the payoff for doing all this? Oh, it's huge. This isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. You get healthier, more sustainable workloads for your team, which means better retention and way better morale. You build deeper trust with your clients through that consistency, which leads to amazing relationships. And you finally create the dedicated space you need to grow the high-margin advisory side of your practice. So this all brings us to the key question, the one you really need to ask yourself as a leader. When you take a hard look at your own operations, at your team's workload, and at your calendar, are you honestly still operating with that old seasonal mindset? Now, if these warning signs look painfully familiar, don't think of it as a failure. Please don't. Think of it as data. It's just data telling you that your operating model hasn't caught up with the new reality. If the workload never slows down, if your senior staff are always fighting fires, and if advisory work is always something we'll get to later, your system is just fundamentally mismatched with the demands of today. So here's the final takeaway, the bottom line. The future of tax is continuous. The whole idea of a defined season is over. The firms that redesign their operations for this always-on environment won't just survive, they are going to lead the industry, building practices that are more profitable, more sustainable, and frankly, more enjoyable. The only question left is, will your firm be one of them?